Majid, can you hear that?
Alright then. So
Jalasat.
that should be.
Can
So
Majid repeating himself? Okay, Nadim.
Nasara.
With how?
Okay. دخل دخلت دخلتي دخلت دخلت دخلتي دخلت.
Right, ahsant. Right, ahsanti. That's good. Well done. Got a bit of speed there, which is good. So, okay, was there anybody? No, is there anybody else? Nadim, were you saying that your wife was crying, or to kind of catch up with the thing with this is that we should be getting the gist of this by now. We should really be trying. So, especially during the during your type of homework time, or during things like this, or days during the week, you should be going through this ذهب ذهبت ذهبت ذهبتي ذهبت, and it should be just second nature really. It should be something which you just straight away are just reiterating without having to think too much about it. So there is an element of rote learning there, but I think that's a good thing. So when you get a chance, do go over these. And constantly go over these. Right, okay, now moving on to what we're going to learn about today. Al-fa'il. Alright, the active participle. Whatever on earth that is. Well, okay, this, going back to this archetype, this fa'ala, the root, and this is going to be very important. Remember that in Arabic, everything will stem from these roots that we've learnt about. Right. Okay, so what we do basically is, let me just take that back. We're going to make, using the verb, we are going to make the doer out of these verbs. So what we're going to do is learn how to say the doer of these verbs, or the doing of these verbs, and we call that in English the active participle. And the way we do that, so as an example before I go into it, to say to write is a verb, but a writer or writing will be the noun describing the person that does that thing, that action. So that's what we're going to learn how to create today. Now, what we do is, first of all, we get the root letter fa, we add an alif after it. We give the ayn a kasra, and we add tanween onto the radical or the essential lam. So it becomes fa'ilun. Fa'ilun. Okay? So here it is written at the bottom, fa'ilun. And this will mean the doer. Okay? Or the one that is doing that action. So what do I mean by that now? Now this is our template. And remember, everything goes by templates now. So here we are, fa'ilun. Once again, right, we've got the verb here. Right, alima, to know. What we do is we add an alif after the first radical letter. We give the second radical letter, which is a lam in this case, a kasra, and we add tanween at the end. Alimun, to know, and the knower, or the person that is knowing, which is, in Arabic, happens to be referred to a scholar. We refer to a scholar as an alim. Don't know why that keeps disappearing, but okay. Right, another example, kataba, to write, katibun, a writer. So once again, what is happening, if we go to our little whiteboard here, we've got the roots, right, okay. So, as you've seen there, kataba, You've added the alif at this point after the kaf. Then you've kind of given the ta a kasra, and the ba is given tanween. And this now means, from he wrote, it now means a writer. We go back to the lesson. Kataba katibun. Kataba katibun. And you'll see that he's also explaining this rule very clearly on, just so you're kind of following along as well. This is Unit 12, page 132, for those of you that are also keeping your books with you, which is important because in a moment we will take a look at some of that text. Just wait. Right, so, okay, now, Mufti, na'am. Alright, yep. Why is the meme written like that? Right, like what, sorry?
I think it's because obviously there's a gap between the part at the front and the line at the bottom. It's just the font, isn't it?
Where, sorry? What? Sorry, I don't understand what you mean. Well, why is the meme written like what, sorry? Alima. Right, okay, I'm not quite sure. It may be that that's just because the meme is written generally. It's written as it kind of just goes round and like that. Now, I think it's appearing like that. That's just the font. If that's what you mean, that it's almost appearing something like there's that element to it, and it kind of comes round like that. I think that's just the font, the way you get different fonts. So it's not too. Is that the way you can see that? Is that what you're talking about, Mahdi? No. Inverse question mark. Right, okay. No. No, it won't. So, right, that's just the font, that's all. Nothing to worry about. Inverse. Alright, quite technical there. Right, okay, Mahdi. So, is that making sense so far? Right, now if we move on, well, how do we go from here to making the feminine? Well, this was quite obvious that, right, why is this moving? Right, so, the way we do this is quite simple, that we simply add a ta marbuta at the end. So, as you can see, this is normal. We will just add a ta at the end. Okay, just simply like that, and I'll show that in a moment. But you've got this here. You add a fatha on the lam, and you just add a ta at the end. Now that will make the feminine version of the active participle. He does refer to this in the book sometimes as just AP, the active participle. And as I've explained, simply it means the doer or the doing. Now we've got here katibun, a writer, katibatun, feminine, a writer. So it's talking about a woman, alimatun, a scholar but a female scholar. Right, now, right, so first of all, what I'd like us to do is, I'd like us to kind of translate these. So what do these mean? How would you translate them? So I'd like you to kind of translate them. You can do that now. Take like what? 1-2 minutes. I think we could do that in about 2 minutes. Inshallah. Right, okay, we're done. What I'd like you to do once you've done those is I'd like you to write the answers, because there's only 5 of them in English. You can write them and put them and submit them on the chat thing. Fighter. Okay, understand that. Right. Number 1. Ripon, why is number 1 feminine? Ignoramus. Ignoramus. Interesting. Alright. Oops, it's masculine. It is indeed. Trust me, it can be quite oops if you mix them up sometimes. The masculine and the feminine. Does lead to some interesting experiences though. Right, so his reader. What's that? Murderess. Oh, seem to be getting quite a novel going here. For 4. Yeah, number 5, by the way, it's just the way it's kind of loaded. It's pushed it across. This was meant to be in line with that. It's just the way it's processed it. It's kind of moved it along. But this one that you're seeing here, Akila, is number 5. Right, good, good. The ear. Somebody just say ear. Ripon. Is that a medical issue you're contemplating? She is a killer. All right, Dr. Majid. Good to know there's so many doctors. I think he can perform self-surgery perhaps. Right, now, you see, the interesting thing here is that we can translate these ذاهب as, like you've said, like goer, although that doesn't perhaps make too much sense, but we're getting the gist of what it's trying to say, or as going, a person that is going. Okay, so a goer, yep, a reader or reading, a killer or killing, but and the last one, akila, an eater or eating. You see, if you say eating, it's not to be confused, although it may be used almost as though it's a present tense verb, but this is not a verb. These are nouns. If anything, they're like adjectives describing people. Okay? So, so would you could say huwa akilun or huwa dhahibun, and people say that quite commonly. He is going, but in actual sense, in reality, it's actually describing him, as in he is somebody who is going, as in right now. Although it's quite commonly used almost as a verb, but it is not a verb. Just to be aware of that technically, that this is not a verb. These are not verbs. These are active participles. These are nouns. Okay, just so you're aware of that. Although, like I said, they can sound very similar to verbs. Okay, does that make sense? So can you use it in he is eating, not he eats? Yeah, exactly. You couldn't say akilun would mean he eats, but what you could say is he's eating, or he is, somebody that eats, for example, who are akil. Just to go over the translations once again. So zahibun, goer, qari'un, a reader, jahilun, an ignorant person, qatila, a killer, female, and akila, an eater, feminine. Do you need the huwa, or is it understood? You see, it depends what you're trying to say, because if you're talking about people or a person, you would say generally huwa, or whatever you're talking about. It's not, because it's not a verb, you could be referring to a thing. Yeah. Like I could be saying, oh, al-waqt zahib, the time is going. Okay. If you could use with it huwa, if you're referring to it or he. So in that sense, it's like a verb. Okay. I mean, I know sometimes when people are learning this, it can seem a bit confusing because in English, the ing at the end does one of the cases where you find ing at the end is the present tense verb. So it kind of gives that similarity, so it can seem confusing. Just to simplify, just remember that it is a noun technically, although it gives kind of the meaning of either the doer or like the present tense verb. It gives that kind of meaning, but it is actually a noun. Right, okay. Next. Alright, okay. So here, what I'd like you to do is create the active participles from these 5. So if you write them down, but you can also write their meanings. So, I mean, you could do that on a piece of paper or whatever, wherever you're taking the lesson notes and things like that. So if you apply the active participle, or rather extract the active participle from this. So if we just take like maybe 3 minutes to do that. Excellent. Right, so you've done that. Sorry, Mufti, do the first letters lose the fatha for the active participle, or is it just written like that? The first letter, as in, like, so for example, with the jim on jalasa, does it lose the fatha? No, it hasn't lost the fatha here. Right, okay, all that's happened is as I've written them. Because sometimes it's so awkward having to write vowels for each letter, I just make sure that I've written the vowels for the last and middle letter sometimes, especially the middle one. So it hasn't lost anything. That's just me not writing all the vowels, because I'm kind of anticipating that you're all aware that it does have a fatha. So that's why. Hope that makes sense. So this does still read as jalasa, kharaja, kataba, sami'a, nasara. It's just me not writing the first one, because plus sometimes when you print out, absolutely, and sometimes when you print out, like let's say kharaja, if you're using the computer, of course, when you're using the computer, if you put a fatha on top of a dot, sometimes it merges it into. Right, it does. We will mention that in a moment. It does. Right, so it kind of blurs it in, so it is difficult. Okay, right, now, guys, next point here, feminine versions. Right, how to write the feminine to those. So, very quickly, now that you've jotted them already, you should be like, perhaps super fast at writing them, which I'm sure all of you are. So,
I've only been doing the feminine ones as well.
oh, you did the feminine as well. So Junaid said he's just been doing the feminine as well, being very
That's why it's taking me so long.
proactive. MashaAllah. As the answers on slide. Okay, right. Good point. I will. I don't know if we've got all the answers here. Let me see. Right, not a problem. Not a problem. I'll just check actually. If I've, no, not on this one. But not a problem. We can very quickly do that. That's not a problem. No, we can just do it right now. It's not difficult. But I'll give you just a minute to write it out. And once you've written it, feminine, yep, we're done. نعم لا نعم. يا معشر الشباب هل انتهينا؟ Have we finished? Okay. I'll check. Very usefully pointed out there by Amina, how letters join, also on page 72 as well. But shukran, or as the Chinese say, xie xiani. Right, are we all done? I think we should all be done by now. Ahsantum. Right, good. Right, so, well, if we kind of just take a look here at, just trying to bring this in here. So, jalasa. That's excellent. Jalisatun. Okay, because we're doing the feminine here. So jalisatun, okay? Likewise, kharijatun. And note that how the letters, they kind of sit on top of the line. And some of them, they hang below like the ra. Obviously, my Jim thing here seems to have dropped a bit low. That's just because of the digital pen. It wouldn't normally drop that low like that. Right, I need to sort out this thing to write it a bit more. Katibatun. Sorry. Dot's a bit early there. Tibatun. This just to give you the kind of gist of how it is. But Sami'a. Once again, just to show you which letters sit on top of the line, and most of these do sit on top of the line. Sami'atun, Nasiratun. The sword. Alright, there you go. Nasiratun. It will be, definitely. Right, okay, so that's just to kind of show you. Yeah. Now, moving on from that, that's the active participle. That's the doer. So whenever you get a, let's say you get a verb, you can create the doer from that verb. Okay, that's something for you to know. Now that's actually a tool for you to create extra vocab. Now, before we move on, if you take a look at Unit 12, which is on page 119. Right, if we look at example 2, for example, Unit 12, page 119, number 2, it says, Allahu sadiqun wa rasulu sadiq. And sadaqa means, what does sadaqa mean? People, sadaqa? Truth telling, yep. So Allahu sadiqun, that Allah is truthful. Okay? And wa rasulu sadiqun. And number 4, as you can see there, is feminine. Al-ummu sadiqatun wal-bintu kadhibatun. And you're seeing this active participle applied in practice. Right? Now, that said, yeah, we'll just take a look at one more there. If you see number 8, it says Al-waladu qari'un wal-bintu sami'atun. Okay, now what does that mean? Al-waladu qari'un wal-bintu sami'atun. I'm just typing, but let's see. The boy was a retard. A reader, okay. Or you would say, Al-waladu qari'un, that the boy is reading, as opposed to was. There's no was there. Boy is reading, because remember, we have to put the is into there. Okay, there is no is in Arabic. We have to kind of translate that ourselves. So we would say al-waladu, the boy is reading, wal-bintu sami'atun, and the girl, remember, repon the, and the girl, wal-bintu sami'atun, is listening. Okay. Right, now, likewise, there's a point here to kind of mention. That's going back to that these words like katibun equally will take L, and the rule will be exactly the same. So if we were to say, why not is the reader? Where's that, sorry? Because it doesn't have L on it, that's why. So in this case, if we said, let's take katibun, which, or alimun, now, al-alimu would mean the scholar. Al-alimu. Now note that because of al coming onto the scene, there will only be one dhamma, and there won't be tanween. So you must remember that, and that will be the same for masculine or feminine. Alright, so inshallah, if that makes sense. So if you take a look actually at page 120 and the example number 17, 120, example number 17, and I know the numbers are in Arabic, but it's basically the third one up. It says, Al-katibatu katabat, wal-alimatu qara'at wa-alimat. Right? Al-katibatu katabat, wal-alimatu qara'at wa-alimat. What does that mean? ما معنى هذه الجملة? What does this sentence mean? Al-katibatu writer wrote and the female scholar read and knew. Ahsant. Scholar read and knew. Ahsant. I mean, you're both correct. I mean, you are aware, you don't have to always write that the female writer or the female, except it's, you know, as long as you're aware. I mean, whilst we're learning, naturally, I may ask. Okay, that was me, not Samir, for your information. Okay, Bushra, I take it. That's, obviously I can't tell here, it just says Samir. So, but very well written there. The main thing is that we understand what's being said. Okay, so if you are learning at this stage, you may want to write the female and the male and so on, just for clarity, that's all. Right, now, right, okay, with that being said, right, let's move on to, before we move on, I'll just summarize that point. So once again, going back, this was the active participle, and it's something which is extracted, or we kind of create it from the past tense verb, and we're going to create the doer. We do that by adding the alif, giving the ayn a kasra, and the lam tanween. It becomes fa'ilun. The feminine version is by adding ta. Examples: alima alimun, alimatun. Right, we've done some exercises, we've translated, and we've created the feminine. Right, now we're going to move on to the second part of, the main part of this lesson. Right, prepositions. Now, right, okay, somebody's taking the board back. Either that or there's some jinn intervention going on. We've got a few jinn on the course as well that we're unaware of. Right, so, prepositions, and what on earth are they? Alright, the definition. Any idea, peoples? Any idea? ما هي هذه الحروف؟ حرف. Alright, Samir, look at that. حرف. Giving an exact حرف of what? May I ask? No nouns. Good, good. That's indeed correct. They are neither verbs nor nouns. Anybody else other than Samira and Co? Yeah? Anybody else? Any Ripon? Majid? Nadim? Anybody? Junaid, you keep going offline and online. Is our technician having some technical issues there? Right, okay, so I think it's been a while. It's a, alright, thanks for the suspense, Ripon. It's a, and then Ripon's gone, tells you relatino, Espanol. Oh, is that just a misspelling of relation? It just sounds slick, I suppose, relatino, whatever that means. But from, of house, okay. Alright, look at this, Junaid trying to, Junaid, did you just cut and paste that? Is that why you went offline? Right, well you don't need to, because I'll bring that in. So, right, okay, right. Guys, a preposition links nouns, pronouns, and phrases to other words in a sentence. Okay? That's the main thing. That's what these things are. So as an example, the pen is on the table. On, from, to, in, with, all of these are prepositions. In Arabic, we refer to these as حروف الجر. حروف الجر. And jar actually means to pull something or drag something. Because that's what they do in a way. And we'll understand a bit more of that in a moment. Is it a relative of a noun and a verb? Yeah, it's a distant cousin. It's all one big family. Right, so, right, okay, now here we've got some fi, min, ala, ila, li. Right guys, what do they mean? Put down their meanings. You can translate them. I suppose if we start from the right hand side, fi, min, okay, good. Ala, Samir is translating it as in, from, on, to, with. Right, I mean at the last one, li needs to be questioned. Samir, two, you've written two for ala, that needs to be questioned. Ripon, in, li, for, yep, correct. It's more li, li, as opposed to le. Ala, on, ahsant, ahsant, ahsant. Well done. The Arabs, by the way, I'll let you finish this text and then I'll... Right, okay, so fi, min, ala, ila, li, ahsantum. Right, so there are the answers. Al-ajwiba as-sahiha, the correct answers. By the way, I mean, I'll just tell you that the Arabs, when they use text messaging and they kind of replace certain letters with digits, so the ayn is a 3, yeah. The qaf is a 9. The ha is a 7. The kha is a 5. And that's it really. I think that's it predominantly. Because it kind of resembles the letter. It kind of looks like it. So if I was to say something like, I don't know, like ala, I would write it like that. In Arabic, like if I was texting. It doesn't actually, it's quite good actually. I mean, this that's the same thing that what's his name, Junaid just said. What's his name? Right, so I mean it's actually quite useful. So if you have to write something, and so let's say you had to write fataha, you could write it as, I'm just saying, I suppose with fataha we know, I mean, we know that there isn't going to, but sometimes you're not quite sure which ha it is that you're talking about. And likewise with kha, they'll just put the 5 in there. So it's...
You're usually not from the word, or only
yeah, because sometimes there are both, like, there could be words where there could be a ha there could be a ha there, something like that. So, I mean, if you're learning, it's good to know anyway. If you end up texting in Arabic, you can use things like that. Right, so, right, coming back to the point. So, حروف الجر, prepositions. It's a shame. What do you mean? They text like that? Is that what you mean? They write the Arabic like this in texting? Is that what you meant? Yep, no, yep. Amna's writing. Right, write everything like that and see in magazines too. Okay, right. I mean, I'm not quite sure whether they do, but it's a bit like the way people nowadays write English in text message type of language. That's only when they write it in English. It's not when they write it in Arabic. In Arabic, obviously, there's, yeah, like that, like later, like that type of thing, yeah. So, people do that all the time as well. They spell cool, incorrect, they spell, you know, they do all these type of things. That's just language, I suppose. Right, so, I'm sure there's nothing so, but spoiling Arabic. I don't think so, because it's Latin letters, so it doesn't make a difference. I mean, it could be disturbing if they were doing that using Arabic letters. So they started to kind of change the spelling and things like that. With the Arabic letters, it could be disturbing. Otherwise, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. Right, so moving on. Right, prepositions. What's so special about them? Right, here we have a sentence. He is in the room. In being the preposition, as you've all figured. Right, now, huwa fil ghurfa. Now, the interesting thing here, peoples, is, get my digital pen. Right, is that fi, this thing over here, this fi, draw a circle around it. See, what this does is whenever it comes before a word, like let's say shukran, 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 right? Whenever it comes before a noun, which it will do quite often, it forces the noun after it to become in the genitive state, as in to take a kasra. So al-ghurfatu before, which means room, the room. Now when you said fil ghurfa, all of a sudden it becomes fil ghurfati. Can you see that? So it should have been, originally, if you remove the preposition, it should have been al-ghurfatu, the room. But you add just the room. Now you add in the room, so you add in, and all of a sudden it gives the word after it, makes it genitive, as in it makes it carry a kasra. And this is why it's called a harf al-jar, because it kind of drags a kasra onto the word which comes after it. Right, so that said, right, sorry, let's get from that there. So if you take a look at page 147, he's given that example, the same example. Wait, okay, why is that gone? Why is that moved on? Right, so 147 is given the exact same example at the bottom of the book. But if you turn the page to 148, and then he's got the number 17 written there, he says, min baytin ila masjidin, which means from a house, ila, to a mosque, from a house to a mosque. What does al-jar mean? Al-jar means to kind of drag or to pull, and that's what the harf al-jar, the preposition, does. It pulls the letter after it. It kind of pulls the vowel and turns it into a kasra. Right, now, that said, if you take a look now at page 154, which is an exercise, 154, if we just take a look at number 1 there, on page 154, exercise number 21, it mentions hiya katibatun, right, and then there's a blank space and it says al-qalam. I'd like you to choose the correct harf al-jar, the correct preposition. You can either place it in there, and you can tell me what the correct preposition for that will be. And also, fi, we've got Dr. Majid suggesting fi. Do we agree? Now, or la. Samir is writing something saying ala. Look at Nadim's already using the text message language. Alright. So Nadim saying ala. Right. Or do we agree? Do we disagree? B, we got Ripon saying in. Ripon, where are you getting in from? Oh, unless you're translating the meaning. Ma'a. Right, okay, you got to choose from, Samir, you got to choose from the parentheses, from the brackets. So the words within the brackets there, you got to choose one of those prepositions. Fi, in. Right, okay, tell me, what is he trying to say? What is the meaning of what he's trying to say? So translate that sentence. Exactly. She wrote. Samir, is it a past tense verb? Ripon, is it a past tense verb? It's not actually a verb altogether, although it's similar to a present tense verb, but it's not actually a verb. It's an active participle, which gives a similar type of meaning. So, yeah, it's a noun. Well done. So, it's not going to say she wrote. It's going to say she is writing. Okay, she is writing. And the correct answer is with a pen. She's writing with a pen. So it will be, the correct answer is ba. So writing with ba. Okay, what about number 2? In order, which are the correct prepositions? It mentions dhahabtu, it says al-bayti, it says al-masjidi. What is it on about, people? Left, went, now that's correct, yep. Min, good. First one, min, that's correct. Ila, ahsant, ila, good. So, min, ila, dhahabtu min al-bayti ila al-masjidi. Okay, that's excellent. If you take a look at page 139, unit 13, 139, if we take a look at number 4 on page 139, it says Aina here. Aina here. Went from the house to the mosque. Ahsanta, Dr. Majid. Right, so number 4. Aina. Aina means where. So Aina is where. Where is she? Ahsant. And the answer is what? It says here في البيت وهي جالسة على الكرسي. And she's sitting on the chair. Ahsant. House, home, both are correct, and she's sitting on the chair. Well done. Ahsantum. So you can see the most important thing here is if you look at these examples, it says fil bayti wa hiya jalisatun ala al-kursiyyi. Okay? And you're going to notice that in the following examples as well. Fil madrasati bil qalami. And that's very important that you're mindful of the genitive case. Right. Well done. Shukran for that round of applause there, Junaid. Right. Now, that being said, if I just very quickly explain what the interjection is. It basically, if I move this along, if we move on to the next that was the bulk of the lesson. Now just 1-2 little pointers, and then inshallah we can be on our way. An interjection is like we've got these 3 words here: ya, ayyuha, and ayyatuha. Now what these are is particles for calling out, for saying oh. I know we don't really say oh so much, but if we were to in English, if we were to call out to somebody, say oh you over there. So in that case, in Arabic, what we do is we'd have more like oi, yeah, exactly. We'd say yo, what's going on? But I mean, I suppose officially we can't really say yo or oi, can we? So yeah is what we have in Arabic. Ya, ya Allah. Ayyuha. Ayyuha is identical to ya. I mean identical in the sense that they both are interjections, although some people may say ya is for something a bit more distant and ayyuha is for something closer. So that's a subtle, an extreme subtlety which most Arabs will not really be able to tell the difference. Or identify with. However, some people have mentioned that perhaps there are these subtleties. And ayyatuha is the feminine version for that. That's all. So ya walad, oh child. Now do note that, however, here as well, when we say ya walad, when we add ya onto a noun, it loses its tanween. So what should have been waladun is now waladu. Okay, so that's an important thing to note. But likewise, if we could use ayyuha, however, if we use ayyuha, the word after it must have alif lam on it, must have the on it. Okay, so that's a rule as well to make a note of. So first of all, if you add ya onto a word, it loses its tanween. That's the first rule. And the second rule is if you add ayyuha, and they're both optional, onto a word, the word must have alif lam on it. So you couldn't have ayyuha for a word that doesn't have alif lam. So for example, names. So a name, unless the name naturally had alif lam on it. Otherwise, like if I say Muhammad, for example, I couldn't say ayyuha Muhammad. I could say ya Muhammad, or ya Ahmad, or ya Abdullah, but I couldn't say ayyuha. Okay, I couldn't say ayyuha Ahmad. It doesn't make sense. I can only use ayyuha with a word that has al on it. Okay, so to make a note of that. Right. I mean, now we haven't got too much time to do this, so you could take a look at this, just very, like, just a glance now. So if you look at page 141, you'll see number 13 to, right, sorry, a moment there actually, right there. That's, right, sorry. Because that's actually going to come after this. So ignore that reading bit for a moment. That comes after this. Right, okay, so if I just go back for a moment, just the interjection to make sure that makes sense, okay? That should make sense. If there's any question, any questions on that, does that make sense? Is that fine? Just to kind of call out to somebody, say, yep, excellent, good. Right, okay, next. A very simple thing. I'm saying simple, it's compound interrogatives. And then with this, we kind of finish really the lesson. So if I just very briefly explain what this is. This is really where we've got two type of, where we've got an interrogative, a question word like who or what, and we kind of combine it with a preposition. So you'll see a word like li, which means for, and man, which is a question word, which means who. You add it together, and it kind of makes the word whose. Okay, and another example is min, from, plus the question word what, to mean mimma, from what. But mimma is written quite uniquely almost in the Quran. As you can see, the alif at the end is dropped, and this is merged in. That's the style of the Quran, that it writes like that. First of all, the fact that it merges in is very natural. Does the second mean, oh child, also ayyul walad? Yes, it does. It means exactly the same thing, ayyul walad, oh child. That's from the interjection. Right here, speaking of this, when you join a noon into a meme, the way it kind of merges in, it will always look like that, like mim, and you see that quite a bit when you read the Quran and things like that. So the noon's kind of suppressed, so it's written like. The reason what should have happened is there should still be an alif here. This alif, if you like, should still be there. The reason it's dropped is to remind you that this is a question ma, because there's so many mas that appear in Arabic. This is to tell you that this is the question one. Therefore, they drop the alif. Once again, I did mention that sometimes in Arabic they do that just to kind of differentiate. And you can understand, especially before, when there were very little things to differentiate. It made sense. If you look at page 149 in your book, you can see that Dr. Surty has mentioned quite a few, about 8 examples, like bima, with what, mimma, which I've told you, mimman, from who, fima, in what, liman, whose, min aina, from where. So these are, mimma means from what, from what. There it is, from what. So mimma, so ara'ayta al-insan, now Allah asks in the Quran, mimma khuliq, from what has he been created? As does he not reflect? Right, okay, we've mentioned that. Liman is whose, as I've mentioned that already. That kind of, now this is something now, I suppose, not right now, but you could just take a glance for later on. Unit 13. Right now, sorry, this is when I said it got mixed up. This was it. Right. Unit 14, sentences 13 to 16, he goes over these type of examples. Like, bima katabta, with what did you write? Katabtu bil qalami. The Unit 13 one, that was, just ignore that for a moment, that was actually to do with the thing before, when we were talking about the active participle and the prepositions and things like that. So just ignore that other slide. But here, if you look at Unit 14, sentences 13 to 16 on page 141, you can see these compound interrogatives, question words like ala man qara'ta, upon who or on who did you read, mimma sharibta, what did you drink from. Right, so you can see that liman hadha al-harth, whose is this field, but that's something you can take a look at, inshallah, over the course of the week. Let's move this forward. Right, we're going to go to the homework. Before we go to the homework, I'll just very quickly very quickly summarize to you these things. Once again, we've seen, if it decides to move, that is. Right, okay, very quickly, we've taken a look at the active participle, which, it's got no idea why it's just frozen. But we've taken a look at the active participle, which has been, why is this not moving? Is that because Nobody else is trying to move it, are they? Right, anyway, we've taken a look at the active participle, which was for adding, for creating the doer or the doing type of noun, and we did that by adding an alif and using that format fa'ilun, and also the feminine. Just thinking this is working perfectly fine. I don't. But guys, nobody's trying to press this, are they? Because I can't seem to get it to move. Should be moving fine. It's working. Right. Okay. So let me just click that back on. Right. Okay. Then we took a look at prepositions, which once they come before a word, they give that word a kasra. Okay, so they make, and this is very important, they place the word in the genitive case. Right. Now, that being said, alright, we took a look at a few different prepositions. The interjection, which is to call out, which is just ya before the word, but if it comes, the word loses its tanween, which we've got here. Also, you can use ya, you can use ayyuha, or you can use ayyatuha for feminine. However, ayyuha and ayyatuha can only be used in front of words which have the definite al before them. And then we've looked at, last but not least, compound interrogatives, question words. Now, right, for some reason this is not letting me show you the homework. Oh God. Alright, what's going on? Right, Techie, why is this?
Maybe you can just close it and try and upload it again. Like, not actually upload it, but if you close it and then just try and open it.
Okay, wait there, just a moment. You just put that back into there. Right, I don't know why it did that.
Yeah.
But I mean, anyway, if we just take a look at that again. So, let me just take that to, yep, so here we are going through there again very quickly. Prepositions, we went through the definitions, different ones, and most important, it's a very important rule that it gives it a kasra, right, and then interjections, right, compound interrogatives like liman, mimma, and last but not least, coming to the homework. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is page 139 to 140, which is unit 13. You can just read thoroughly and try and understand. However, unit 14, right, which is page 141, 143, I'd like you to read, write and translate. After that, on page 145, you'll have a glossary which has got some words if you copy that out. And then if on page 154 you'll have exercise 21, which we took a look at a few examples from a moment ago, which we just did things like هي كاتبة بالقلم and ذهبت من البيت المسجد. If you fill in the blanks, all of them, and there's a section 2 to that which you have to translate into Arabic. With that being said, inshallah, this lesson's really come to an end. Inshallah, hopefully, the thing with this is that we should be getting the gist of this by now. We should really be trying, so especially, my pleasure once again being on here, talking to you, hearing you, seeing you. So take care, and inshallah we'll meet again next week, same time. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.